Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back, guys, on this episode of World of Tanks. I got something special here. Look at this. This is the EMIL 1951. The EMIL 1951, a Tier 8 Swedish premium, a prize tank. It's a heavy tank. It's a prize tank for front lines, which you will be able to get this week on the 5th episode. Because you can be 2 episodes ahead, you will finally have accrued enough points and you can unlock and receive your very own EMIL 1951. So you're going to see a lot of these things show up here in the next week or so as Frontlines kicks off. And the people who are 2 ahead, and I believe you only have to be 1 ahead actually to knock this thing out. Once you get through, that is this episode, and get it 1 more prestige level, then you're going to be able to unlock this because you'll have the 12 requisite points to do that. You can check it out here. It is a, like I said, Tier 8 heavy premium heavy tank. I just said heavy tank. Swedish, much like the EMIL 1. This is an interesting one because this is almost a clone of the EMIL 1 with a couple trade-offs. It's actually a little bit faster, more maneuverable, and the gun's a little worse, and that's more or less the only thing that's different. But we'll do a comparison. Standard for my reviews. We'll get an overview. We'll look at the tech tree considerations. We'll take a look at the 3D model. Very interesting things to see on these EMIL-type tanks with this known great turret, which is good in a lot of cases, but in some cases not. We'll talk about that as we go. We will take a look at my stats after 20 battles, look at my setup. There's some interesting things on the setup that we'll talk about. I don't talk too much about crews, but this made a difference, so we're going to talk about that in the general setup of the tank, mostly revolving around the gun and how atrocious it is, and then some examples of gameplay in my 20 games. As I took a look at the Swedish Tier 8 Heavy, the EMIL 1951, a new prize premium. Oh, by the way, this is a standard premium, meaning that it does get the extra credits, which is nice. It's not just a prize tank, it's actually a premium tank. All right, let's get started. We're going to start the overview a little bit different this time. We're going to go into the frontline section here and just take a look at what it takes to get this right now. I am at Prestige 4. There's only been 4 episodes so far. I have not gone 2 ahead. You can be at Prestige 6, which would mean you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these prestige points, so that if you were 2 ahead and you finish 5, which of course puts you at 7, math and public, you're going to have 14. Why is that important? Because you need to have 12 of those bad boys to get your 1951. So anyone who is currently 2 ahead or who can play up to 2 ahead during this next week, wherever they started, then they can have the EMIL 1951 in their garage. All right, for the more standard overview, you can take a look at here. It looks a lot like an EMIL. Let's go ahead and get all of our heavy tanks hanging out here at Tier 8. Looks like a standard EMIL 1, slightly different model. You can see it's got some more side skirts and things. I actually kind of prefer the way this one looks over the EMIL 1. Pretty cool looking thing. It's got some of the new 3D modeling stuff on it as well, so that's nice. We're starting to see a lot of that on the tanks coming out. The armor pattern that I've selected has that kind of cool Swedish crown thing going on right there. Fairly tall tank, but not really a very large tank. You look at the 112, just kind of massive. It's definitely taller than the 112. Obviously, everything's smaller than the battleship. That's this thing. 5100, another autoloader. Take a look at the relative size. So pretty small, really, for a heavy tank. Even the Carnarvon is massive compared to it. The Defender, pretty compact. That surprised me a little bit. The Defender is a relatively compact tank. It seems like a very large one, but the Carnarvon is actually bigger than the Defender. So not too easy to hit from the side, really. The side of the turret's a pretty big billboard, but it is low slung, and from the front it prevents quite a small target, especially if you can keep the turret hold down. We'll talk about the armor layout in just a minute, but it is angled on the front right there. Has some treads here, obviously, like all tanks do, but they're relatively wide and can eat heat, HE, things like that. The turret is the strong suit of this thing. We'll talk about it a lot as we go, but you can see it does have this angle right here. So if you, as you start to turn and flat plate it, and we'll look at that when we get to tanks.gg, you will decrease the armor value and people will be able to pen you right there. That was a problem. You know, if you come straight at them like this, that's great. You know, your hold down kind of thing, hiding your hole, and you want to just have that strong turret. But if everyone's there, you're fine. But if you got maybe a guy over here or a guy over here, and you're pointing at someone else, then you may find yourself getting pinned in the side right there as well. So there's your general overview. One last thing. This is just a point of interest. You go to vehicle details and you go read over here, a prototype heavy tank developed for the Swedish, and you get down to the bottom and it says Design was prepared in 1951, but development was discontinued in favor of later versions. So I went, oh, that's cool. So what were the later versions? I went to the EMIL 1, the EMIL 2, the Cron. Every single one of them said, well, it was discontinued in favor of a later version. I have no idea what the later version was. It's apparently not. It's apparently not in the game. Maybe it's a more modern tank that is not in the game because it's later years or something. I didn't research it past that, but I thought that was kind of funny because I figured at some point I'd get to the later version in the game, but no. Even the Cron is something that was not really developed. Anyway, there's the overview. Let's move on to tech tree considerations. All right, for the tech tree, you cannot get it on the tech tree. Obviously, it's a frontline reward tank right now, right? It's a frontline premium reward tank, but the crew setup is exactly the same as the EMIL 1, 2, and 3. There's only 3 in there, which has the standard 3 crew problems of you're trying to pile a lot of skills on only 3 guys, and as you get to the later skills, it becomes very hard to unlock some of those things. So you're talking about, I believe the commander's a radio operator and the commander and maybe one other skill set. 2 of those skills, you want Sixth Sense, you want Brothers in Arms, and 2 of those types of guys have the spotting skills, right? The view range skills. So by the time you get to that 4th skill, never mind trying to get camo or trying to get repair. So you're at a kind of a big disadvantage with the small crews, especially at high tiers where you're looking for good crews with all the real good skills. You know, there's garbage skills nobody uses, noted, but if you had 4 or 5 guys in there, it's much easier to spread those good skills around and get them to 100% much faster than you would on a 3 crew. It splits off from the Leo. That's a 4 crew tank. At least this line splits off, not obviously the 1951 as it's a premium. And you lose one of the crew members right there. You're also going to be retraining him into a heavy at that point because the Leo is a medium. So it is a bit of a mess when you get to that split off from the Leo into the EMIL family. But once you get to the EMIL family, that crew or that tank will train crews from any of those 3 tanks. So pretty easy there. Obviously no modules because it's a premium. All right, let's look at the 3D model. Here's a 3D model in tanks.gg. I've got the live one set up so that it will change as I change the angles right here. So as you're looking straight on, you can see that it's pretty strong on the turret, but only 230, 245. So anyone who's got a pretty good heat round at tier 8 or even tier 7, and any of the tier 9s and 10s that it's going to face, is not going to be bothered too much if it's level straight on. It is going to be able to put a round right through your turret. So don't be too cocky about this. Where it starts to shine, though, is if you can get any kind of back slope, right? So they're slightly lower than you. Look down for you, look up for them. You get into this crazy auto bounce area and just very strong air bounce right there. Bounce in the upper plate if for some reason you expose it, but do not expose the lower plate. The lower plate, even from this angle, is very weak. You get to higher, though, if they're shooting down on you, it's going to be pretty easy for them to punch through your turret. So it's a bit of a one-trick pony as far as the turret goes. And remember I talked about these kind of side cheeks right here. Again, a little bit look up from the enemy or look down from you. That's good. So back slope, you know, you get to that point, it's holy cow, really good. Remember, it's got 12 degrees of gun depression, so it can use those kind of pieces of terrain. But if you get any kind of side, so even just a little bit of angle, all of a sudden that cheek is very easy to pin. And that's what I was talking about. You're straight on with the guy over here, but someone's to your right, or maybe someone's over to your left. They're going to have easy shots into the side. I'm going to say it's easy to hit, but it is kind of a small triangle, and if you're rocking back and forth and moving, it's difficult. And obviously this is a wider spot down here, and a lot of times they're only seeing this top little corner anyway. Still, be aware that that's there. The other thing I will throw in is be very careful. There seem to be machine gun ports right here with 50 millimeters. And that's what the model is showing here in tanks.gg. I haven't tested this in-game, what it looks like, but right above, if you go a little bit further, and it's better for the mantlet, and then right below, there's another little slot right there at 52. Those are not easy to hit, but if someone's face hugging you or very close, they may be sniping for those spots, especially if you're doing this to them, and they can't really get into your turret. They may just try to go through that little 50 millimeter. Again, that's what the model is showing. I have not tested this in-game. Just be aware of that. And then, of course, from the side, it's just pen all day long. The roof is quite weak at 20, so if they're looking down, completely down on you, then you're going to be eating shots into the top of the turret like most tanks will. Let's move on to the comparison. I did something a little bit different on the comparison this time because what I found with this tank is the gun is very derpy, as if you've driven the EMIL series, they've been like that. They got a little bit of a buff recently, but this one is still sitting at 0.38 dispersion, and it was very painful. I'll talk about how I mitigated that and what that meant to me when I was playing it. So when I did the comparison, I'll spit the word out. I decided to put some of the more derpy known tanks on there. So it's a bit of an eclectic mix. I even have a preferential WZ-111 in there just for comparison's sake, because you may have played some of these other tanks that kind of have derpy guns, and in general they're assault tanks and tanks that require you to be close to your work. You got the T-34B, not necessarily a up-in-your-face assault tank, but a ridge brawler like the EMIL 1951 with a very strong turret, but also derpy. So we take a look at this. And the EMIL 1951, I'm just going to jump to that right now since I started off with that. We'll get to the rest of the numbers in just a second. But the dispersion's at 0.38, whereas the EMIL one's 0.36. 0.36 starts to get more comfortable, and when you mitigate it with all the things like Brothers in Arms, vents, all the other things that will help you get better with your dispersion, then it becomes much more comfortable. 0.38 is pretty painful, and it takes quite a bit to bring it down to really what would be usable. And the reason I talked about just a moment ago, these other tanks are kind of assault tanks where you get in your face. This one isn't, right? This one is designed with a kind of one-trick pony, hold down some specific very strong points on maps where it can work, and those tend to be medium-ish to sometimes longer range, and the derpy nature of the gun just really lets it down. So it's hard to get nice up and close. If you can find that one rubble pile where you can go up and fight someone face to face and they will let you just keep poking over with your good turret, okay, good on you. That's a great place for an EMIL 1951, but those are few and far between. So it does suffer a bit in that respect. So let's just back up though and start with the average damage at 360. Looks like they did the same thing they did with the EMIL on changing some of that stuff just recently and just put that initially into the EMIL 1951. It does have 3 shells in its autoloader, and it reloads. It's okay. It's down here at 29, almost 30 seconds, whereas the EMIL one is at 26. So that's one of the advantages the EMIL has, but everything else is pretty similar. 12 degrees depression, 14 lookup, and 15 for the EMIL one. Why they had to have 1 degree difference, I don't know. Gun traverse speed is okay, but not great. The turret is a bit slow for tracking people who are trying to get around you or needing to change from right to left if you're getting attacked from 2 sides. Rate of fire at 5.16, which is, that number is not very useful because of the autoloader nature of the thing. But so the alpha's decent in there. The pen's at 217. We'll talk about the APCR. It gets a little bit more. It uses APCR, and the pen from the gold round is not a whole lot more than the standard pen. So while that's a decent pen with a standard round, not great. I mean, look at the T-34B at 248. It doesn't get a whole lot of help from its gold, so that it does suffer a little bit in the pen department, especially against those higher tiered things like 8s. I tried to take on a Malshin and just absolutely suffered from it till I could finally get down into his lower plate. So be careful with that. We'll come down here. The inner shell is 2.75, which is nice. It's longer on the EMIL, but even 2.75 feels like an eternity waiting for that next shell to get ready. You're not going to come out and go pop, pop, pop. It's going to be pop, pop, pop. And just, that's pretty much the speed of it. So if you're going to come out and think you're going to put all 3 in without return fire, it's going to have to be a special position for that to happen. All right. Aiming time's 2.88, which is better than the EMIL 1, slightly better aim time, even though the dispersion is worse. So there's kind of a trade-off right there. DPM's okay at 1858, but the EMIL 1's got it at 1998. And of course, some of these other tanks are quite a bit more, but 1800 and 1900 is a pretty standard tier 8 DPM. I mean, look at the poor T-34B though down there at 1600. Yikes. Hit points at 1400 is on the low side. As noted, it's a small, heavy tank, so it doesn't have as much staying power as some of the others. The numbers on the hull and turret are exactly the same as the EMIL 1, so there's no difference right there. Notice it's 180 on the turret. That's really not that great. It's the angle piece that matters. And so if you're looking straight at them and they're level with you, don't trust that turret, especially against, say, tier 8 TDs or any tier 9 or tier 10 tanks. They're going to absolutely shred that turret. If you get some back slope and get that really heavy angle, then you can start trusting your turret. But just driving up and getting behind a rock, you know, level with someone and saying, ha, you can't pin my turret, it ain't happening. They are going to pin your turret. All right. 400 horsepower engine, a little bit more. That's where the mobility starts to kick in. The EMIL 1951 is much more comfortable to drive, although it's, in theory, slower at the top end. It gets going and moves around, and its traverse is just better. It feels better than the it feels better than the EMIL one. The EMIL one is very sluggish. You feel like you're lucky to get to that back slope, and by the time you crawl up there and get a shot, you know, you want to take a knee and a rest because you're thinking, wow, that was a lot of work getting there. But the EMIL 1951 is much more comfortable in that respect. Concealment is, you know, it's a heavy tank. It's not amazing. I just noticed this number on the OHO. 0.4, that is amazing. Can be seen from space, apparently. So you're not really going to conceal. The concealment with this thing is hiding in the bush and being on a back slope and just poking up the turret. That's the concealment that this thing has. And the view range at 360 is atrocious. I mean, just truly awful. I mean, you're not spotting anything for yourself. You are going to be outspotted. I did have that problem a bit. Got outspotted quite a bit. So you do need to be careful with crossing open areas and all that kind of good thing. And look at the terrible signal range at 710. What is up with the EMIL 1's radio? It's got the greatest radio known to man. It can almost talk to the other map next to it there. You can see all that's covered up by my little icon right there. Technical glitch. That's fine. Where are we going next? We're done with the comparison. What would I say overall? It's, again, very similar to the EMIL 1. A little more sprightly, a little bit worse gun. That's pretty much the end game there. So if you really like the EMIL 1, I think you're going to like the 1951 quite a bit as well. Plays more or less exactly the same. Let's move on to my stats. Here are my stats. I'll move it up here actually so you can see it. The EMIL 1951. 20 battles, 55% win rate, 1,009 average XP, which is pretty good actually. I think this is probably a 55% win rate solo tank for me. Maybe close to 60, but 55 to 58 realistically is about where I'll be. 20 battles is a low sample size to see where it pans out. I'm actually doing well damage-wise, 2,213. I would actually expect that to come down a bit, maybe closer to 2,000, maybe 1,900 if I played 100 battles in it. 1,122 received is pretty high, and then assist at 519. Enemy vehicle spotted low, as you might expect with a heavy tank. And destroyed is only 0.9. That's actually pretty low. What I have found with the autoloader on this is because it's only 3 shells, it has a hard time putting people away. It can drop down near deads pretty quick, but as far as just jumping out and clipping someone out, you do struggle a bit unless you run into 6s. To be quite honest, I don't know if I ever ran into a 6. I guess I did have a battle. Maybe there's an example with a 6 in it. I think I do have one coming up, but it wasn't many battles where I was facing 6s. It was usually 7s, 8s, 9s, that kind of thing, occasionally a 10. Like I said, 55% win rate. Survival's good at 40. 78.38 is pretty good on the hit, and I know I came down hard on the gun. I did change some things up. When I get to my crew setup or my setup, we'll talk about what I did. So I think the second 10 or 12 games is a lot better than the first one. But the gun does require care, and you need to aim fully zoomed in, which is something I have a problem with because I like to snap, take shots, minimize exposure, all that stuff. But because the turret's pretty good and in the right conditions, you can come out and be careful with your aiming. That's kind of what you need to do. Damage ratio 1.97 is okay. Destruction ratio is decent. The armor use efficiency is an interesting number. About 0.5 is a situational kind of armor that in the right situation and with angling you can do well with. 1.0 is very good armor. Anything lower than, you know, 0.25 or so is virtually no armor. This is sitting at 0.38, so really this represents the whole, or not the whole, but the turret as its situational capability is. Otherwise, if you are exposed at all with any of your hull, they're going to shred you with this thing. So not too bad. If we look at the EMIL 1, I'm sitting at 63%. Similar and actually a little higher average XP. I apparently did really good in this tank. 75 battles is a truer example, but the EMIL 1 is sitting at 2273, so really not a whole lot of difference here. If you look at these numbers, the only thing different with the 1951 is my damage ratio and destruction ratio is much, much lower than the EMIL is. But remember, that's the old EMIL that had 4 shells, right? So you've traded a shell for faster reload, and that's caused, I think anyway, kind of an interesting thing with the numbers as far as this tank not being great at putting people away. So that is the tail of the tape. Let's look at my setup. For my setup, it has all the modules. Obviously, it's a premium tank. I am running the Vert Stab, the improved vents, and the enhanced gun laying drive. This one could be potentially traded out. I felt like because you would be hanging out behind rocks a lot, or at least trying to, that this may actually do something for you It's possible just to kind of help the atrocious optics, you may go with coated optics. I don't know. There's nothing else really on here, I think, that's going to help it a whole bunch. You know, the toolbox, okay, you repair faster, I suppose. That may be something to think about. Maybe binoculars, because you're going to be sitting still in the bush, but not really. So not a lot of great options. I think the setup I have is the best one, and you may want to go with coated optics if that's your thing, to help its atrocious view range. So that's a possibility. I'm carrying 54 APCR. Remember, both are APCR. I did want to say I was going to mention, or I did want to mention the pen. It's 242 with the gold rounds. So like I mentioned earlier, it's only, what, 20 Math in Public, 25 more than, yeah, 25, something like that. 25 more than the regular pen, which is not amazing for a gold round. This gets into the whole gold round rebalance thing, because a lot of the new tanks tend to not have really great gold round penetration. So we're in this weird land between it actually being balanced and the new tanks they're attempting to balance. So it's something that it will struggle with a little bit as far as balance goes for its pen. But like I said, I'm carrying 18. Now remember, these are clips of 3, so that is 6 reloads of gold, and that's a lot of gold. If you fling 18 down range, you're going to end up buying a lot of gold credits. Buying a lot of gold rounds with credits if you're flinging that much. That's probably a little on the high side, but I was doing some try hard on this thing. I've only got 3 HE, although I managed to shoot them probably I don't know, a third of the game's out there, because I'm so used to manual repair kits that when I do something like repair the gun, it's an immediate 4-3 that I hit on the keyboard. And of course, if I'm carrying a large kit, all I need is the 4. The thing is repaired. When I hit 3 after that, it switches me over to HE. So I'm trying to break that habit. All right. You'll see that I have coffee. So this was what I was mentioning. When I started, I was actually using this crew out of the EMIL. And it's only a 1-skill crew and working on the 2nd skill. As a matter of fact, I used the Swedish book. I actually bought a Swedish book so I could get 6 cents. And I thought, well, I'll just grind the EMIL 1 crew a little bit. But what that did to me was I suffered, because I was running with no food. Now this is the EMIL. Let me go back here. I was running with no food, had a fire extinguisher there, and I had a crew that did not have brothers in arms. And I wasn't running any directives. So about 8 games into it, and I was streaming when I did this, I was starting to get really irritated, and I was going to come down really hard on this tank because I thought it was so atrociously bad with the gun. You know, it was an EMIL 1, which I liked, but the gun was garbage, and now you've got a 3-clip gun, and yes, it reloads faster, or a 3-round in the clip gun, but it couldn't hit or pen or do anything. So about 8-10 games into it, I said, all right, hold on, let's try to maximize this thing. So I got this crew that's in it right now. This is my Kronvagon crew, and there's an example of what I was talking about earlier with the 3-person crews. There's a lot of skills that would be great on here, but because there's only 3 of them in there, it takes a long time to grind them up. But they've got brothers in arms. They've got some of the snapshot and smooth ride and the good things that help you with your aiming and such. Then I got rid of the fire extinguisher, and I put in the, whatever the Swedes do, what is it, coffee with cinnamon buns. That sounds delicious. I could use a cinnamon bun right now, actually. Got my coffee. Tangent time, there we go. So they've got the coffee and cinnamon buns and brothers in arms, and I put the directive, I think I was running vent purge or something like that. Maybe one of the aiming things, or the vent purge, whatever. A little bit extra on top to help myself out. And it made a lot of difference, because what it did was, let's go ahead and actually do this just for giggles. If we do the vent purge, whatever, we'll purchase it, that's fine. I lost 12 bonds. All right, so we come over here, and we're at 0.35 with the dispersion, right? And if we get rid of this thing, where are we? We're at 0.35. Obviously it helps, but not that much. Not enough to drop it down to 0.34. But 0.35, while not great, is much more comfortable than about 0.37 I was running without all the goodies on it. All right, somebody made a really great comment on the stream, and I lose track of this a bit because I have all the tanks in the game, I have good crews, I have the credits, I have access to content, all the things that I have. But his point was, wow, that's an expensive setup you're running right there, right? Large kits, food, the whole 9 yards, lots of gold, try hard mode. that's not something the standard player can very often do. And that was a very good point. That was a very good point. So I have pretty good stats in it, but about 10 or 12 of those games of the 20 were with this setup, with a good crew and try-hard mode. So take that with a grain of salt. The gun is terrible. It honestly and truly is terrible, and you have to do a lot of thinking to make it work, and probably dropping some silver coin in there and a good crew so that it's a more comfortable gun. All right, that was a lot on my setup right there. Let's move on to 3 examples. All right, first example is on Himmelsdorf, and you might look at this and go, ooh, this is really this tank's element. This was also before tryhard mode. You'll notice I still have the fire extinguisher in there. So it ends up being a class 1. I also have a second Himmelsdorf where I'm going to be in tryhard mode. I'm pretty sure I've got it all set up, and we're going to do a little hold down kind of thing. This one I actually come up top, and the reason I wanted to show you these two is to kind of show you the struggle the tank has when it's not really in its element. So I'm actually going to first come up here and see. So I'm thinking immediately I might, well, maybe I'll just hold down here, but dueling a 103-0 with this thing's turret, it was not really at the top of my list. So we'll come over here and we start working on Mr. FICO Slurpee here. I'm just going to actually go around him because what I want to try to do is work on this 103. Initially I thought maybe I can come around this corner, so look at that right there. I'm not going to be able to come around. I'm not tall enough, and I'm going to expose a hole coming around here just to get that shot off. So I'm not really doing the hold down thing here. Also, I'm almost tall enough that if there's a tall tank over here, they might be able to shoot into my turret and things. And remember what I talked about, I'm not really getting that great angle. I'm trying to get this thing to work here. I'm not really getting that great angle out of my turret because I'm not backslope. The stirb is a little bit look up, so that will increase the angle of the turret, so that's good. But I just took a look at that and went, yeah, that's not going to work. I'm not tall enough, so I'm going to have to side scrape here. And I put one right into that hatch area. That worked out, and I'm like, oh yes, this would be really nice. So, no, I just no idea why I didn't pin that, but that's all right. And another one snuck in. Now, both of those were not fully aimed. Sort of rushed those 2 shots. Got a bit lucky and went right into where I was aiming on both of those. So that worked out, and now I'm on a reload. So I wish what I would have done here was actually get out of the way of the Tiger instead of keep doing this. I needed to just get out of the way, because right now I'm blocking him when he's trying to look. That was just poor on me right there. Not paying attention to what he's doing, but I'm thinking, all right, let me try to finish off this stirb thing. Tiger does a nice job, takes down the AC-48. Tiger 2 fires, so I'm going to try to come around here and get a shot on him. No, I back off. Got a lot of their tanks up here. There's the 103 again. Try to come back here. I run into the Tiger. We're working against each other a bit here. And more of them stack up, so I really don't want to go around this corner. I'm going to get hit and tracked, hit again. Even if I try to fix my track, I'm probably going to get tracked again. And then this guy just loses his ever-loving mind and goes down in a heap. And that is why I did not want to go around the corner, right? So that's a good lesson. Now, this was very strange. This guy, that was a bounce, but watch this. We're going to have to try to find out where he hits me, because I commented on it during my stream that I'm not really certain how he's getting a hold of me. And he may have actually been going into the hole. But I've got to reload. A long reload, right? 30 seconds is pretty darn long time. I see that giant stack down on the low end there. I'm really wondering why they haven't pushed around and just killed these guys off. But it's a pretty good scrap up here. So the Tiger 2 gets a shot. And I'm thinking, alright, I just got a little bit of myself. There we go. So we're going to try to shoot him into the... No, that just hit the ground. Nope. And boom, he pens me. Pens me. And in game, I couldn't figure it out either. Those two little things are not actual pen shots. There it is. Look what he did. He went right in that weak spot. Right, I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? Right there, that 50mm weak spot I talked about. And that's, I was talking about on the stream, like, how on earth? And I finally get one back at him there into that hatch. That was an amazing shot. And it's not the last time he does it. So I've gone to gold. I needed more skill, so I pressed it, and I'm now skilling up. pretty quickly here. I need to not do that. See, the Tiger, King Tiger, C was trying to get in maybe after that guy fired. Doing a really bad job of working with him, so probably owe that guy an apology. I'm thinking, all right, I'll get this guy. Let's do that. No, it didn't work. And boom! Look at that. Amazing. Did he? No, that time right through the turret with APCR. Look at that. Now, he is look up, so that was a bit interesting that he actually was able to pen right there, and he was obviously aiming at the same exact spot right there, but he gets the pen with the gold round right through the turret. And that surprised me a bit, because he was a little bit looked down, so that angle was slightly more than normal, but there's a tier 8 anyway. Thought that was the tier 7 version. And not only does he hit me there, he breaks my gun, which really hurts. I wasn't ready. I wish I'd have been ready. I should have been able to take that guy down right there. That's when I was talking on the stream going, where on earth is this guy pinning me? It's some good work on his part. There we get a little bounce. This guy comes in, burns. Now I've got a little hole protection, so that's nice. That guy comes in, and then he breaks my gun. At least he didn't pin. So now my gun is no kidding broken. Got to repair it. There we go. And going back for the reload. And it, like I said, this is the tank not in its greatest element, right? I am having to side scrape. I don't have a really great angle on the turret. A little bit difficult to use. Down goes that dude. I want to sneak in here. Thinking, nope, can't do it. Because if I do that, the reason I didn't keep pushing in there is, first of all, he's looking right at me. And second, my turret would have been sideways, and these guys would have had shots into the side of my turret in between all these tanks. Now, this is where, remember when I talked about trying to fix my gun, pressing 4-3? That's what I have done. Pressed 4-3, and now I have HE, which I did not realize. So, I will, I'll be made painfully aware of it here in just a minute, that I actually had loaded HE. Chrysler K is there, the 103. I'm really waiting for maybe somebody to come around behind him. There goes the 130 PM. So that was good. And now I'm just trying to find a way to kill off this 103-0. Chrysler's showing no indication of wanting to come in, so I'm just going to try to side scrape here. And I'm thinking, alright, well, I've got HE, so let's see what we can do with this guy. Nope, he sneaks away. And now he's changing position a little bit. Try to kill that guy, and I go, what? I didn't kill him. And that's where I realized I have HE, and unfortunately now he moves up and takes a chunk out of me. And now I'm in big trouble. I'm thinking, well, I've got HE. If he shows me a side, I should be able to take him down. If I have to shoot him in the front armor, that's probably going to take a while. The 103-0 is now turning around, so he's got more problems than just me. I see this guy not quite looking, so I'm going to try to sneak around and put a shot. There we go. Ooh, 73. So, look at that. Side armor, and I still couldn't get rid of him. I think that's so embarrassing. Anyway, it worked, right? We got him. We showed him with our HE, didn't we? That's great. And I've got a forever reload. You can see the 103 is turning around to look at the T-43, and I'm just going to go for the ram, even though I don't turn very good. And, well, that'll show him. There we go. So we got rid of that guy. And all we got is an RD and a Tiger, too. And I'm thinking, alright, let's get this look down on this guy. I don't know why the Tiger one's doing what he's doing, and the AT is charging off, and he falls, and Soap Rock's got him. He's still sliding off the Soap Rock all the way to the ground. Down he goes, finally getting a reload going on. I'm going to try to get the Tiger too. Nope, he dies. And maybe we'll just switch, kill him. There we go. And I almost went down there. Look at that. I'm slipping on it. Just a little bit further forward, and I'd have fallen off that thing. Ends up being 2,468 damage, no assist, 4 kills. But I wanted to show you because this was the not try hard mode, so I don't have the food, I don't have the good crew in it. The gun was a little bit derpy, and I was fighting in a not great element for the tank right there. So you have to do that with the utmost of care, because this thing's pretty easy to kill if it gets isolated or overexposes itself too much. Let's move on to the second example. Good old mines. Good old mines spawning into the north spawn, and we're headed for the hill. And this thing obviously can work this ramp really well. The EMILs have a really good advantage right here, provided you play it right. There's only one artillery. The Pantera is making a runner. And I am trying to get to that Centurion. I'm like, I am reloaded. Let me get there. Let me get there. And he backs out, and I don't know. I just can't quite get the shot. I take it and miss. And I think I actually press for reload here. Yeah. So let's just reset, reload. We got a super coming up. But they didn't push hard either. They got the Centurion up there, but there's not a lot of backup coming. And I commented during my stream, like, what the heck are those mediums doing? That is a fantastic move if it's done right. It really is. And there they go. So they're all down there. They've got to that back corner, and they've got a large chunk of the enemy team looking that way. And that makes this right here much, much easier. So I'm going to come up here. Look at the depression on this thing. I don't have to expose too much. Drop a shot on him. Give one to him. But bounce. Terrible shot. And there we go. One into his side. Boom, boom, boom. And I get out of there. Chrysler K takes another hit. Pantera jumps up there. The Centurion is dead, so we can get up in the hill. All I have to do is get up there and take it. And I thought right there, I'm like, this T-34 knows I'm reloading. He's going to come out and get a free shot. I don't want to back up too much because there's a little V in the rocks. And I'm thinking, nope, he's going to get his shot before I can reload. But he takes a hit, and then he fires, and he's got a long reload. So that lets me come up here, stay low to the left a bit, and just put those nice shots right into his side. Shot comes back my way. Looks like there's a TD back in the corner there. So instead of taking those two shots and then pushing up while they see me, I'm going to back out for a moment. The Chrysler K dies, and now I'm going to take that opportunity to just rush up the hill. So pretty classic. I did not face a whole lot of opposition. Those mediums really opened up what we could do there on the ramp. But the strength of the tank is fighting in that kind of situation, and that allows me to reload as I take the hill. All kinds of time, and I'm going to come over here, and then I'm going to bounce off the side of this thing, although maybe I'm not quite hitting the side. And this is a case of not letting it reload completely. It looks like I might have actually got up into his turret. So, again, this is not tryhard mode, because you can see that I'm still running the fire extinguisher. You've really got to let this thing zoom in. Now he's angled, so he gets a good angle bounce, and I'm a little bit more careful about my aim, and I finally get one in on him. So that's 1 out of 3. And you will find yourself having that problem. You'll notice I'm just firing the regular APCR with 217 pen. That is a problem this thing will have if you're not careful with your aim and you don't select where it is you're going to shoot. You can really find yourself bouncing 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 of its shells, and that's real painful because you're waiting this long for a reload. Thinking, alright, I got this guy dead to rights. Pantera comes around. We'll just finish off the Lance and see, and I get hit in the side. There's a Udez over in the corner over there. Good news is, I actually bounce it. He gets a crit, no damage. So that little open spot is now dangerous, clearly, because he can shoot through there. All kinds of guys camp in the back. I really want to get rid of this 4502 if I can. So I'm just going to pass by the opening and just accept that the 4502 may jump out. We'll get a reload, but he is holed up behind that building right there. Not much I can do. And then I find the Udez, which makes me very happy. I'd like to get rid of him so I can have more freedom of movement up here. I'm going to let this zoom. Oh, I did not let it zoom in enough. See how I rushed that shot and completely missed. It just went insane. What I really wanted to do here was dive on this guy. The Progetto starts to move around. Then I find the 4502 over there. I still have my 1 shell. And that's the point where you got to start making a decision. Are you going to reload or find a target fast enough that you can get that shell off and start to reload? Managing your clip on these tanks is hugely important. Pantera goes crazy. He's, oh my gosh, I'm on a soap rock. Help me. Help me, Lord. Help. Nope. Sorry, no help for you. And he survived it. And down those guys go. I'm not going to get any more damage. I got 2 kills, 3,272 damage, 507 assist, and I don't make it. took a cue from the Pantera, and I was not as nimble nor as clever. So definitely lost points for the dismount right there. All right, let's move on to the third example. The third example, we're back on Himmel's derp, and I'm going to put this thing in its element here, and we're going to be more careful. And it looks like all my examples are when I was not tryharding. That's interesting. I will say that my efforts got a lot better once I put the food on there, but all my examples happen to be without the tryhard mode. But in this case, I'm being much more careful about how I'm going about it. The EMIL 2 and the EMIL 1, I think he's a little high. I'm not really sure why he's exposing so much of himself. Well, maybe he's not. Maybe he's doing a good job. I've got to fall back, get my reload going. Try not to be impatient. You really want to get in there and start aiming, but you got to wait till you're just about ready. And then I see there's a JT coming in. I'm thinking, all right, we'll just really nice, right down in there. Oh, that hit the ground. A little higher. Put one on him. There we go. There's a bounce. A couple guys fire. There's no reason why you can't pull back for just a potato and try to spoil some of their firing solutions. And we drop a few more shells in there. We're sitting at 15-24. With two EMILs and then an Object 263 holding the low spot here, that's really tough for them to push up and over. And if they're going to do it, they'll end up losing a lot of hit points to do so. So that's really painful. So now we've got this M103 and I'm dueling him. Gonna look for that shot right onto his little hatch. We bounce one. Let it fully zoom. Bounce another one. That's unfortunate. Come up here and let it nice and zoom in. And there we go. We finally sneak one in for a low roll at 338. Quite the high roll in the Chrysler. I dropped 430 on that guy. And now it's time to move up. The reason why is our guys have come around the other side, so it's time to put pressure on them over here. Got the Suma SM. I'm not quite reloaded. The 263 is sitting there, so I'm just going to push in. I see the Suma running, so he's obviously clipped out. I want to try to get by the JT. There we go. Put him down. Auto aim this dude. Put another shot at him. There's the Suma. So actually, I don't know if he was... He may have only had 2 shells left, so it looks like he came back with his 2 shells. Put a couple hits. I was a little bit worried the E75 was going to reload fast and get some shots on me. And now we're just going to go ahead and chase down this Suma. Little auto aim on that guy. Try to let the T49 go by. That'll work. Come here and fire. Oh, the 263 cut him off. He goes over the rock. Now we're chasing down the poor Suma. This is actually pretty fun. This 263 ends up, he and I end up bumping into each other pretty much the rest of it. He likes to just run in there and ram them. Unfortunately, that leaves his friends a little opportunity to do anything. Suma puts a shot into me. That's a crit, not quite a kill. I see the WZ-111 1-4 go by. A little bit surprised he didn't come at us, but it looks like he's trying to go hold down right there. So now the EMIL and the 263 are bumping into each other. And I fired a lot of gold. I did mention it on the stream when I went up to the top hold down spot. I was looking at all the armor that I was going to have to chew through, and I said, I'm just loading skill from the beginning. Look at that guy, just driving and shooting that poor WZ. Tried to sneak one in, actually bounced it off my friend. He goes by him, good on him. There we go, we get him shot, and the 263 actually backs off for a wonder and allows me to have a clear shot. Good on him. And I'm up 4,250, 534 assist. I don't believe I get any more shots in here. I'll actually speed this thing up. I haven't even reloaded yet. Pretty sure I don't get a shot. We're just bumping into the other EMIL. And the Scorpion dies in the corner. So like I said, 4,255. An example of in its element, hold down, can really do some good work up there. And then just following up where your advantage is. Not necessarily a strength of it. But I was able to get in there. I got past the JT because he was on a reload. Put a shot into him. Put a couple shots into the E75. Soften him up. You know, killed the JT. Softened up the E75. So eventually, my buddies could take him down. I was surprised it took him that long. I don't know if they were bouncing off his front or just got unlucky or what was going on with all that. That's the third example, so let's move on and we'll wrap this thing up. Well, all right, that is it for my review of the EMIL 1951 Tier 8 Swedish heavy premium prize tank, whatever it is, frontline tank. I was going to come down on this thing really hard in the first about 8 to 10 games, and if you watch my stream where I actually played this thing, I am, well, let's call it what it is. I was whining about the gun handling and saying it was terrible and that it didn't work for the game. So I'm going to start with a little negative. Tanks with this bad of a dispersion that are also kind of designed to be medium range to long range snipers and hold down guys. That's a weird combination and it's hard to use. In the right element, this thing is an absolute beast. As I showed you on the replays, I do really well in the EMIL 1 using it in that manner. So given the right situation, very good. But it's a bit of a one-trick pony with the hold down thing that's going on. However, I will back off that it's a terrible tank and say it's actually a pretty good tank. All right, that's a bit of a 180, isn't it? But understanding that it very much needs to be played with care. You can't just rush out and clip people. That's not what this thing is about. This is a support tank. You can be forward in support. If you've ever watched AMI stuff, you understand what I'm saying. When I say support tank, I don't mean somebody hiding in a bush behind everybody. You may be a little bit behind everyone, but you're in there. You're just not leading the charge or potentially trying to rush forward. That's not what this thing does. But played in the right way, it's very capable, good tank. And what's super cool about it is it's a premium, right? So here you go. You got a premium that's making credits and experience for your crews, and it works really nicely for the Swedish Heavy. So if you're a big Swedish Heavy fan, this thing will be right up your alley. Unfortunately, you've really got to grind yourself out some front lines to make this thing happen. This one, though, should be reachable by everybody. I think this is pretty easy. I think it's the STA-2, the WZ-111 or something is the other one. The third tank is this one, and it only requires 12, I guess, as we looked at it, of the prestige coin things. And I believe pretty much everybody can easily get to this EMIL 1951. So it's a good premium, very capable if played carefully. All right, if played carefully. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this review of the EMIL 1951. Good luck with getting this thing on front lines. I really, at first I would say, my first 8 battles, I would have told you don't bother. But after 20, I'm going to tell you, you know what? Go get this thing. Go get this thing. Play it in its element, and I think you're going to have a good time. That's all I got, guys. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Thanks for your support of the channel. It's been an awesome ride so far. Keep it up, and we will see you.